Hi, I'm Ben,
And I'm Ernie.
and this is Budget Nerds.
It was all in your mind.
You are not alone.
No, you are not. Well, today, Ernie, we have a really special one. I was just perusing over on the YNAB fans group over on Facebook. If you're not a part of it, it's bonkers huge. There's tons of people in there. Just search up YNAB fans on Facebook if you're on there, and you could join. And I found a really cool post that I just really liked a lot. It's not one of their biggest posts. I mean, some of their posts gets like literally 1,000 comments. And so this one was a little bit shorter, but it was just full of gold. So somebody wrote, "What's one benefit of using YNAB that surprised you?" And I was like,
Nice.
and I think my ears perked up. Actually, I think one of the admins of the group sent this to me because she knew I would be interested in this. Shout out to Brooke there. And I was interested, and my ears perked up because I'm always interested in, when you get your money dealt with, it affects every area of your life, right? Because money touches everything for better or worse. So these are like just little benefits that came out of using YNAB that surprised people that didn't necessarily have to do with money.
And we mention these benefits quite regularly, but I think it's going to be really fun to call them out and focus on them.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we're going to go through these pretty quick because there are 100 comments on this thread and they're all gold, and I want to get through as many as we can. But what I did was I went through and just kind of grouped them in general squishy categories. So the first one is stop depriving yourself. So this is a group of sentiments and comments that came out of this thread that's just about actually the opposite of what most people think a budget is. People think of a budget as something that is about restriction, as depriving yourself, sometimes even punishing yourself. Like it's a moralistic thing, right? Yeah. And they found out, you know what? I actually spent a little more or worked a little less. I mean, we'll get into it. So, let's jump into that first one there.
I love this. Realizing I could afford to stop working 3 jobs, 7 days a week if I just changed my spending habits. Now happily working one and enjoying work/life balance for the first time in 10 years of adulthood.
Love that.
I'm breathing this sigh of relief for this YNABer. So excited for them.
I mean, you could find out, hey, I don't actually need to make as much money. Maybe I could work a little less because you're just more efficient with what you're doing and actually enjoy your life. Wow, what a concept, right?
And back in the day, I'm going to go the other direction here. The budget showed me that I could pick up another job.
Interesting, okay.
So we had paychecks that covered all the necessities. I was looking at the budget like, hey, we're covered. I have some extra time available. Let's get a second job, just, a few hours a week, little side gig to speed up the debt payoff.
Right.
And knowing that it was all gravy.
Okay.
And I remember just how motivating that was. I didn't need the job to pay that other job to pay the bills or, make ends meet or anything like that. It was gravy. And so I was super motivated to, hey, let's try to get an extra $50, $100 per week, speed up that debt payoff.
Yeah. So it can go both ways. It just gives you the information you need to make those decisions. And
yeah.
I love that.
And then I got to the end of that little stretch. I think it was a year or 2 years. And I'm like, I'm done, right? Because I don't need it.
Mm-hmm. I love that. One person said, I feel like I can save without feeling deprived. They said that I could actually save significant amounts of money without feeling deprived while still spending money on things that are important to me. That's really cool. Like they could not only enjoy their life, but also save some. That's amazing. Because they probably came into it thinking, if I want to save more, I'm going to have to cut back a whole lot. But they realized they actually didn't. And I think that's really because you start spending money in ways that are important to you. And the things that aren't so important to you that you kind of just did automatically start to fall away and you don't even miss it. You know what I mean?
Kind of along those same lines, the comment here, I could afford to eat out or buy myself things.
Yes.
So again, this idea of you can spend, it's not about deprivation. Love
Yeah,
that.
I think there's a lot of people that come to budgeting, they're already kind of prone to depriving themselves. Like some people come in, they're like, oh, my spending's out of control. I need a budget to help rein things in. And some people are like, I'm already full of anxiety around my money and I don't spend any money as a result. And then when they get a budget, it actually takes away that anxiety and shows them, hey, you can loosen up a little. You can actually go out to eat or buy things or do things for yourself, and it's okay. And some people need that framework of a budget in order to give themselves permission to do that. And that's exactly what this does. So you could end up spending more money than you did before, but you spend it in a way that makes you happy, and that's really what it's all about.
The way you want to. It really took me a while to get to that mentality because when I first came to the budget, things were really tight. So we did have to kind of lock it down and rein in our spending, cut in some areas. So there was this sense of restriction at first, and I think that was necessary.
Mm-hmm.
But then once we got a handle on things, now it was, what do we actually want our money to do? Like, what are our priorities?
Yeah. I mean, I was just talking to my wife this morning. There's an opportunity on the horizon to give a little more to our church, possibly. And we were like, do we want to do that? When we could. And I just said where I was like, we could make some changes if we wanted to, you know. But and it's just crazy because I know I don't even know what those changes are, but like I know I have the capability of looking at the budget and making some changes if I wanted to. So it's kind of just about it's about control. It's about having the clarity. You can always make those decisions, and sometimes you might cut back a little bit, and sometimes you might actually open up floodgates and go out to eat all the time, you know. But really, it's just about knowing why you're making those decisions and what you're giving up if you do choose to give something up, and that leads to just a lot less anxiety and a lot less deprivation in the end.
And speaking of giving, just the other day, Christy mentioned to me, hey, I want to give to this organization. Do we have money available?
Uh-huh.
And I was like, yeah, we do. And she's like, oh, good. And then she said, well, if we didn't, if we've used all that money up, I was just going to use my own money.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. Like, you know, she just knew, like, we have money set aside for donations.
Mm-hmm.
And if not, there's still a way that I can give to this organization that I value because I have my own set of dollars that I can do whatever I want with.
Right. Really awesome. Yeah. All right. Moving on to our next little group here. Less stress is just in general, people reported feeling less stressed. So I think these are the two things that really shock people. You know, the question again is, what's something about using YNAB that surprised you? There's a benefit you got from using YNAB that surprised you. And one is, oh, actually, budget's not about deprivation. And just how much stress goes away when you use YNAB or when you start budgeting is the next big thing. So this is a fun one. Vacations are more fun. I saw this a whole lot. One person wrote, vacations are so much more fun for me because I know the money is there and that's what it's for. So when we see the random roadside attraction or a billboard for world's best huckleberry milkshake, I'm in and can enjoy it.
I want to Google that now. World's best huckleberry milkshake. Where is that at?
Yeah, for real.
And what is a huckleberry milkshake?
I know, what even is that? I don't know. But like, I love that because and people say this all the time. Like, I spend money on the thing that I actually allocated it for. I know it's meant for that, and so I don't have to feel guilty or stressed out worrying that money is really needed for something else. You know.
We just got back from vacation a couple months ago, and I've mentioned this story, but we overspent quite a bit, like $500. And I knew that in the middle of vacation, I knew we were overspending because I was keeping track of things along the way, but still I was able to enjoy vacation. I wasn't stressing out a ton. I mean, there was a little like, you know, why do we do this kind of thing? But still I was like, I knew at the end of the day, it was going to be covered. Like, we had some flexibility in the budget. I knew where I was going to be rolling with the punches from. And I was just like, it's fine. Like, let's just enjoy vacation.
I love that. Yeah. Even if you do end up overspending, you have the skills and the framework to deal with it. And that's
Yes.
that. So even though your boys were eating more than you thought on vacation, I think that's what it was, right? It was
It's always the boys and what they eat. It comes back to that every time.
Yeah, you still didn't feel stressed about it. So I mean, a little bit of cringing, right? Just a little bit, but
Yes, like, do we seriously need another triple burger with like quadruple bacon and extra fry? Like, let's just rein it in a little bit here, fellas.
right, exactly.
Another benefit of the budget along the less stress piece here, no more mental math.
Oh my
right?
goodness.
You're not walking into the store. Okay, it's grocery shopping time. I've got $2,000 in the checking account. I've got the mortgage coming out. I've got the water bill. I've got this birthday, like
so much.
And then trying to figure out how much you have for actual groceries. That is the worst. And it's never correct, right? Every time I did mental math before YNAB, it was a complete guess, and I was always forgetting numerous things.
Yeah.
So
And you
I
have to
thought
do
I had
that,
the money,
like,
but I didn't.
You have to do that every time you spend money, and that's
every time.
That's like 1,000 times a day, right? It's just, it's no way to live. And that's because you only have one piece of information, which is your checking account balance, really, to make all these decisions. And that's not enough. I mean, because it's clearly not enough because you're doing all this mental math of thinking about the next bill, right? And yeah, if you have to do that every single time you spend money, it's just, it'll make you a bundle of nerves because you're always, you're going to forget stuff, or you did the math wrong. Or even if it might not really always be mental math, it's always kind of a guess too. It's like, it's more like a feeling because nobody's like taking out like a piece of paper and being like, well, I have $1,000 in the checking account, and next Tuesday, the electric bill is coming. That's going to be about $230. Like, you're not doing the math. You're like getting kind of a feeling. Like, I think I could spend $80 at the store today and I'll be okay. You don't really know. And that's just a recipe for stress.
Now, the time that people were doing the math is at the end of the month.
Right.
I've got X amount of dollars, right? You're kind of running on fumes, making sure it doesn't dip below zero.
Before the next paycheck.
Then you're actually pulling out the calculator.
Right. And that's no way to live either because, again,
but
that's
that
paycheck
goes
to
away.
paycheck, right? Goes away. And then just somebody said, anxiety drops. They said, I have not had anxiety about money in years. How many people can say that? Not a lot. Money's probably one of the most stressful things in our life. And to go without fear about it for so long, I want to know what that does to our health. We should do like a study, like budgeters versus non-budgeters. How long do they live? You know what I mean?
How do we get that commission? I like this idea.
You want to take this next one?
Moving along, let's start talking about some relationship improvement.
Oh, yeah.
This is where it starts getting really cool.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of people on that thread said that budgeting improved their marriage.
This is
so
huge.
Here's one
huge
we want to call out specifically. It got my wife and I on the same page about what our financial situation actually is, which makes it much easier to discuss what we can afford to spend because we are starting from the same place. That was always a challenge before, and it's easily worth the subscription.
I love that because even when you have a budget, you're going to have disagreements about money, but you have a shared framework. Like you have, like they said, you're starting from the same place. You actually have something to touch, like a touchstone to go back to, say, hey, what's reality? What's the real situation? And then you actually can have an argument without knowing. You can actually have an argument knowing that you're both at least looking at the same information and you have the same information in your head. Otherwise, you just talk past each other a lot. You know what I mean? And you don't know, one person's making all these assumptions and the other person's making a whole other set of assumptions. And it's impossible to really have a dialogue that has any real benefit without that shared framework,
And if it's not arguments, it's at least one less thing for you and your partner to stress about.
Right.
My wife and I have a million things to stress out about. I mean, the teenage boys and school situation stuff. work? Is my new grass going to grow? Like, the list can go on and on, but money generally isn't one of those stress points in our marriage. And the way I always frame it, it's one less thing to worry about. And that's huge.
Yeah. It always blows my mind because we have a little channel in Slack that called YNAB Love, and it's just that if anybody says anything nice about us, we put it in there. And if you're having a down day, you can go there and you can read nice things, and it's really nice. And I remember when I first came in and started working for YNAB, and I saw that, and I saw people writing, "This saved my marriage. We were headed for divorce, and this saved my marriage." I was like, "Whoa, okay,
yeah, big time."
This is wow. I mean, there's a lot more going on there probably too, but yeah, like I'm like, this is a budgeting app. Like, what's happening? You know what I mean? But it's really true. It's this practice that gives you a shared space, allows you to have discussions without it becoming a fight and without hurt feelings. So there's so much there.
There's also something there with friendships.
Yeah.
Here's one. I used to be stressed out about going out with friends and would even avoid it sometimes because of money. Now I have money set aside just for time with friends, and it makes a difference.
Yeah. My wife did this. She has a category in her personal spending group called friend dates. And she takes some money from her personal spending and sets it aside there. And I'm looking at her right now because she's smiling at me. Yeah, and that's made a difference for her because she wanted to be more intentional about going to lunch with friends and things like that. And setting money aside for that kind of sets the intention. Like you see that, there's money in that category. It's like, I should call my friend Beth and make a date with her. So there's something about just having the money set aside that actually makes you do more. You do it more, and improve those friendships. And yeah, that's really powerful.
My wife is a lot more social than I am. So she's doing a lot of stuff with family and with friends. And, there are times where right away I feel that like, hey, how's this all going to get paid for? But then I'm like, that's coming from your own personal category. You've got it covered. Mm-hmm. No sweat.
Exactly. Yeah. And so many people like talk about this all the time. Their friends are constantly wanting to go out and they're like, I feel like I can't afford this. And it's a big problem in a lot of friend groups, I think. And sometimes I feel like if one person said something, like everybody's assuming everybody else wants to spend a lot of money. And I feel like probably a lot of people don't. And so if one person kind of said, hey, like, what if we had dinner at my house instead of going out or something like that? It probably would work. But it's also nice to have the freedom to go out and spend time with your friends out and about doing fun things.
And if you do have to say no, because that's never fun, saying no to your family and your friends, you have this legitimate reason.
Yeah.
You can look at the budget and like, these are my priorities right now. I'm trying to get out of debt or save for a down payment. And I just want to make sure I channel as much money towards those priorities as possible. So it's a lot, I think, easier to say that no when you can stand on this firm foundation of why you're saying that no instead of just this, it feels like I've been spending too much money lately.
Yeah, you actually have a reason. Like, you can state that reason. Some friends you might not want to state that reason because they'd be like, that's not a good reason. Right?
Yeah.
But even if you don't state it, you actually, within yourself, so you can kind of stand firm on it. So
yeah,
so much there. We'd do a whole episode on spending money with friends and all the social awkwardness of that, but we should move on. Okay, so this is a bit of a catch-all category that I made up from these comments. Intangible things, totally unrelated to money. Okay, so one person wrote that they realized they were drinking too much before they started a budget. And I think the reason why they realized that was not only for their health, but also how much money they were spending on alcohol. They wrote, it showed me I was drinking too much because I wouldn't reach my goals because of how much I was spending on alcohol. Now I drink less and I'm reaching those goals. So I love that. You have more money, but also a healthier lifestyle too, and reaching those financial goals. So I love to see that.
Also, more control over every aspect of your life. So this YNABer wrote, it has made me realize that I'm always in the pilot seat, not just with money, but with every aspect of my life. Life does not happen to me. I happen to it.
I think this was my favorite comment in the entire thread because it's just so great. They realized, oh, here's what it is. The skills of budgeting transferred to everything in their life, and it gave them confidence knowing, hey, they're capable of managing scarce resources and being in charge of their life. I love this comment. I'm going to read it again. That it has made me realize that I am always in the pilot seat, not just with money, but with every aspect of my life. Life does not happen to me. I happen to it. Love that.
I loved it too because that was the biggest thing for me is budgeting gave me this confidence that I wasn't expecting because I was able to get control of our money, hit some goals, save, pay off debt. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like I actually did this. I mean, there's not a whole lot of things that I can say I'm good at,
Right.
but I'm good at budgeting. And that it's weird, but it feels really good to say and to know. And I think it gave me confidence moving forward into other things. And it's something that I continue to fall back on.
If you get it,
That's
if you can get a
huge.
win here, you can get a win somewhere else. I think a lot of folks
Absolutely.
and there are like systemic problems that keep people trapped in a lot of ways financially.
Yes.
So I want to acknowledge that. But I also think that a lot of people around money have a victim mentality where they're like, I'm just never going to change. And it causes people to just kind of sit in their circumstances and not try to control the things that they can control. And if you get a budget and it's able to turn your thinking on that, you might start thinking, oh, what else do I have more control over than I realize? And I think that's exactly what happened here. And really cool. I love it.
All right, we got more experimentation in life. All right, the benefit of applying experimentation to my life. Every month I sit down and review the last month's purchases for value for money. I often found some that seemed like such a good idea that didn't hold up, while others had an oversized benefit. Later, I started doing the same review with how I spent my time or which projects to pick. So again, this confidence or this application of budgeting kind of bleeds over into these other areas of life and just continues to, put out these sprouts of benefits to people.
Yeah, I love that. It's just this kind of like playfulness almost, like I can experiment with my money and I can experiment with my time too. And it's almost like a detached thing. Like, oh, you know what? That didn't work out. Like I spent money on this thing and it didn't actually give me the benefit I thought it would. And I like framing it as an experiment. It's like, oh, I tried it and it didn't work. I know what to do next, not so much like this mound of guilt and shame, which a lot of people feel. Instead, it's just you learned from it and you moved on, and you can apply that to your whole life. So I love that.
All right, should we move into the practical things?
Yes.
The practical benefits of budgeting.
That's when we get a little nerdy here. So I like this stuff. This is kind of a round robin. Lots of people just talked about the benefits of being able to look up their purchases. A lot of people talked about vacation locations. So if they go to the same spot, you go, like I went to the Outer Banks this summer. If I go to the Outer Banks next summer, I'll be like, where did I go eat? Oh yeah, that place. It wasn't very good. I'm not going to go there. That place is really good. I'll go there, and you can kind of experiment. A lot of people said, when was the last time I got my hair done? That's one thing. I do this all the time. Like just practical things. Like when did I go to the dentist last? Or when did I last get my hair done? Or when did I go to the eye doctor? You can look all that up. And I don't think we realize how beneficial that is, because there's all sorts of things you need to do on a regular basis. And if you can kind of get a time interval just by searching it up in your budget, you can always know. I don't know how else you would know, like, the last time you got your hair done otherwise. I mean, I guess you could look on your bank, but it's not as accessible.
That's annoying.
Yeah, that's annoying. Nobody wants to do that.
We have a family friend and their second son just graduated high school. Their firstborn graduated a couple of years ago, and we sent them some money. And so when the son just graduated, we were like, how much should we send their brother? A couple of years ago, looked in YNAB, found it within 30 seconds. And so we were able to send them that same amount because, we didn't want to send different amounts. That's just not fair. So
Yeah.
that was super helpful.
I recently did this to look up how long it's been since I got a new phone, because my wife's phone was on the fritz a few days ago. It got some water damage. It's funny. She dropped it in a pool at one point and went and retrieved it, and it was totally fine. And then it like drizzled on it, like a little bit of rain got on it, and it's like, it was like, I'm not going to turn on anymore. Just so I don't know.
Like what?
I don't know what's happening. But anyway, she was actually able to get it fixed. She did lots of research and fixed it. But yeah, I was like, okay, well, how long? I was like, it was looking like we might need to get a new phone. I was like, how long have we had these phones? And we bought them at the end of 2020, so we've only had them 3 years. And I'm like, I think we're good. Like, it was kind of a way to make a decision of like, well, is it worth it to get a new phone anyway? Because how far back was it when we got new phones? Or should we really try to fix this thing? So that was nice.
All of these practical benefits of having a budget are reminding me of one of the downfalls of doing a fresh start every single year. I have to open up new budgets.
Yeah.
I don't have this one master file that I can just quickly search. So that gets kind of annoying, but I'm always able to find the data.
I would love it if one day, I'm not sure we could do it because I think it just in the infrastructure, the budgets are really separated. But if we could just search all transactions across all budgets, that'd be pretty sweet. Or get reporting across all budgets. That'd be cool. Maybe one day.
So cool.
Maybe one day. That'd be pretty neat. Then the obvious one about looking at purchases, tax time, so much easier. If you're itemizing,
Yep.
I mean, and you got to look up how much did I spend on medical bills just in general over the past year. You could get that information really easily. And that's very powerful for sure.
Here's the best reason for having a budget. I win all the arguments about when something was purchased and or how much it cost to me. That's worth the subscription cost.
That was a fun comment. It's like these arguments that don't matter at all, but you gotta win. Maybe that's a way that it doesn't help your marriage. I don't know. But what would we do before the internet? I mean, like, we just never, like, where you talk about, like, oh, which celebrity was in that movie or whatever. You just don't know. Like, you go to the library, like, what do? I guess you just never knew. You didn't get, nobody got to win the argument. Yeah. All right. Using credit cards more than ever because the money is automatically set aside to pay those bills. A few people said this, that they actually use credit cards more and they benefit from rewards, or they just aren't afraid to use credit cards. I
always blame YNAB for getting me into the credit card churning game.
Right. Because
once I got a handle of one card, I was like, oh, I can totally avoid going into debt on this card, basically because, YNAB's treating it like a debit card. So let's start opening up a ton of these things and start churning the points and getting free hotels. And now I want out of the game, but that's a whole other episode. Yeah, but YNAB gave me that confidence of, hey, I can actually manage multiple cards at once and I don't have to worry about getting myself into this huge mess.
I think Ashley, who is behind the scenes of all the budget nerds, she runs all our YouTube stuff. Ashley talked about this when she started YNAB. I think she said before she started YNAB, she didn't use credit cards because she was scared of them because of all the stories of people getting in trouble. And then when she started using YNAB, she was like, okay, I can handle this. I can get a credit card. So yeah, I guess the big thing is it takes away all the guesswork and all the mystery and a lot of the danger, the real danger of using a credit card. So love that.
Here's another one. Checking account balance surprises me every single month. After 9 months, it's never been this high. Can totally relate to that.
Yeah, if you use YNAB, you're gonna get cash rich. You're just gonna be like rolling. You're gonna be diving into the the coins like Scrooge McDuck. I don't understand how that works because like I feel like he would just like break his neck immediately. Like it's not like water. Anyways, it's a cartoon. Chill out, man. But yeah, you're just gonna have money lying around because you're saving for all these true expenses. You're getting a month ahead. All this stuff just means you're gonna have more cash. I hear a lot of people say after their first month of YNAB, they're like, "Did I forget to pay a bill? Because why do I have all this money? Like, what happened?" They start getting worried. you know and then YNAB shows them because they can look up the purchases. There you go. YNAB shows them they did pay their bill, so there you go.
This was the moment I knew Christy was sold on YNAB. I forget how long we'd been using it, maybe a year, 2 years, something like that, but she just happened to sign into our bank account. I know I've mentioned this story before, but looked at those account balances and was like, whoa, that's the most money we've ever had as a married couple. And so I knew at that point she believed in YNAB. She knew it worked.
I love that. Yeah. So if you're married to a not like super nerdy person, and you need to show them benefit, just show them your checking account balance, and that will prove that it's working. Last thing that's very practical: automate bill paying. A lot of people said this as well. It's funny. Like it seems like such a simple thing. Just put your bills on autopilot, but it takes away so much work. Like just so much annoying work around finances. Makes a big difference and a lot of peace of mind for sure.
Yeah, I loved when I got to that point because it took a while for me to get enough ahead with my cash to be able to put everything on auto pay. And the big one was the mortgage because for the longest time, we had to wait until that first paycheck of the month came to pay the mortgage. And then it's signing in. Not that, signing into an account to pay a bill takes a lot of time, but it's always on your mind, right? Or if it's on a to-do list, it's always something that pops up on this regular interval. Now, cash heavy, put these things on auto pay, don't have to think about them. It's not another to-do list or a to-do item that pops up. It's just in the background. I know it's happening, and I love that.
Yep. Happy to report that my water bill has auto paid every month since I wrote a letter to my city to tell them I wanted that in January. So that's good to go. All my bills, every single one that's regular anyway, is automatically paid. So love that.
And then I think we'll just end with this one, a sentiment that was popping up repeatedly in that thread. I enjoy budgeting.
Was not expecting how much I actually just enjoy it. I mean, yes, that's a budget nerd thing to say right there. You come in, you don't expect to actually, like a lot of people come into budgeting being like, okay, I got to do this because I got to be responsible. I got to be a responsible adult. And then it's like, actually, this is fun. And that's great. I love that.
I mean, that's what brought me to my first budget. Hey, I got to be responsible. We just got married, blah, blah, blah. So let's do this spreadsheet thing. And I didn't mind it because I've always been a numbers guy.
Yeah.
But then when I got into YNAB, I was like, oh my goodness. Like, not only do I enjoy this, but I love it. Like, I love payday. I love looking at my category balances. And now I want to start, talking about budgeting all the time. And we fast forward 10 years and now this is my job and it's what I do. I just nerd out about budgeting with YNAB.
Yeah. We have pretty awesome jobs, Ernie. I mean, this is pretty much the dream. It literally was crazy. My dream. I mean, I remember before I started working at YNAB, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And my wife asked me, if you could do anything, what would it be? And I said, well, what I really love to do is teach for YNAB. But that's never going to happen. 9 months later, got a job here. So yeah, pretty wild. But yeah, I never really expected to be this much of a nerd. I think I can trace it back to not the moment I started YNAB, because when I first started YNAB, it was still a little bit of a chore, like just reconciling. Because I only did it. I talked about this a lot. I only did it like once a month or once every few weeks. And it was really hard. But I think the moment I really became a budget nerd was when I made it a habit to check it every day and approve and deal with transactions every day, and then just glance over the budget every day. And that's when I really started actually enjoying the process and loving it. So do that if you haven't
Yeah.
already. Reconcile
And
every
there
day.
were some
Give it a try.
comments too of like, when I'm done budgeting, when I'm done like assigning or reconciling, I'm sad.
Right.
Because I have to wait until tomorrow.
Yeah. People tell me like my method of hitting that underfunded button, it's too fast. And I agree. It is too fast. It's too easy. But yeah, so we always find ways to stretch it out if we can.
Well, and that's why we just randomly will open up YNAB and just start staring at the budget for no reason, right? We're like trying to
so
create
beautiful.
some fun.
Exactly. Yeah, and if you do that long enough, you'll be like, "Oh, I could do this, I could do that," So, the constant dreaming is what it's all about. Well, guys, I would love to hear what your unexpected benefits of using YNAB are. Something like not related to money. It might be tangentially related to money, but what is a benefit that you have found that you just wouldn't have expected when you first started? We would love to hear it in the comments, or you can always email us at budgetnerds@ynab.com.
But before we let you go, we want to share a couple YNAB wins.
Let's do it. All right, I have an email from Brian who wrote in. Brian says, "Hello, budget nerds. Wanted to write in and say that we recently passed the 365-day mark for Age of Money. Whoa, awesome. My wife and I decided to dive in YNAB in February 2020. Great timing, right? Oh boy, yes. We found out that we were having a baby and decided that it was probably time to get serious about finances. After a little bit of a learning curve, helped on by YNAB trainers and the support staff, we took to it and have never looked back. 2 kids and 2.5 years later, it truly has been something that has more than helped us prepare for the expenses and financial life goals we've had. Now, to be fair, one of the reasons the Age of Money is so high is because we are trying to save for a down payment on a house. Love it. And have saved up a significant amount. So it is cheating a little bit. No, it's not cheating. But on the other hand, if we have a significant punch we need to roll with, we will not be completely out to sea, all thanks to YNAB. So thank you, YNAB. Cheers, Brian. Love that.
Well done, Brian.
Yeah, and you saved all that through some weird years. So good job.
My win comes from Rachel. Rachel commented on Ben's updated categories. I think that was like the first time we talked about categories, or maybe the second time.
Oh, this is like a while back.
It's a long time ago.
Okay.
YNAB win. Aged my money to 34 days so far. My bank account has more padding now than it had in quite some time. So no matter what that age of money is, it's just fun to watch it go up and hit those milestones. So at least, a month old. That's awesome. Congratulations, Rachel.
I love this. We got a month-old Age of Money. We got a year-old Age of Money, and they're both still having the same benefits. So I love that.
Yeah.
Love that. All right. If you have a YNAB win, send it in the comments, or you can email us at budgetnerds@ynab.com, and we'd be happy to read it and get back to you. We'll see you all later. Happy budgeting.
Yeah. Happy budgeting.
Bye now.